Well, you spoke and you decided. Very narrow. I put a poll up yesterday asking if you wanted to see a review of the Austria-France match or the Czech Republic and Portugal match, and it was very, very tight. It was, I think there was about a 5% swing last I checked before I started making the video, and the Austria and France game won, which I'm kind of glad about in a way, because this was the game I wanted to review more than the Portugal-Czech Republic game, just because I thought it was a better game to have to rewatch again. And Portugal-Czech Republic is, while it was an interesting game tactically, it was Portugal very much on the front for analysing like sort of one specific period of game state, and that was going to be Portugal dominating Czech Republic and their counter-attacking throughout, which didn't even happen that often. They scored a worldie, and it would have just been sort of going over issues that I discussed about with Portugal in prior videos. With this, it offers me a look at Ralf Rangnick's Austria, who were very, very good on the night. Didn't deserve to come away with nothing, but that's football sometimes, especially when you're dealing against a French team that's got all the quality in the world. But they approached it bravely. They rattled France as well, I think it's fair to say. They really did, I think, stun them at points with their direct nature, their high press, and just overall gameplay. And we're going to go over that. First, we're going to go over Austria's attacking state. Okay, so in Austria's attacking shape, it was a bit of a sort of 3-1-5-1. As one of the centre midfielders would drop alongside of the back two, the remaining centre backs that would change into a sort of back three. It wasn't always Grealish, it wasn't always Seibeld. They would interchange. If it was on the left side, Grealish would drop in. If it was on the right side, Seibeld would drop in. Typically, though, Austria attacked down the left, so you would see Grealish taking it in this position right here, and it would be Sabitzer, Baumgartner and Lehmer taking the 3 central 10 positions, similar to the way Germany do it, and their main threat in this position is their vertical movements, trying to disrupt the French shape and get on the ball and create space for others. So you'll maybe see Lehmer dropping into this position, you'll see Baumgartner trying to get in behind, as well as the striker doing so as well, and just pulling this France midfield and defensive line apart to disrupt their entire shape, create angles that they could play through. You'd typically maybe have one player in this shape show for the ball in between the lines, so let's just move Sabitzer over here, that they could then play it through into the gaps that get created by the players showing and dropping. They did it really well, they were effective, they were energetic, they showed a lot of capable running quality off of the ball to make these sort of movements and angles. The French shape, though, when they sit back deep, they are very disciplined. They do sit in their base level 4-4-2 that turned into a bit of a 4-3-3, and the reason for that is because with the 2 centre midfielders on the ball, let's just say if it moved into the occasional 2-2 shape, you'd see Griezmann go to play this press, which allowed Rabiot to go and press, which left N'Golo Kante a little bit isolated in this position, which didn't help him up against the 3 attacking midfielders in this position, who were able to get more angles as a result. And because of the congestion of these players in between the lines, it forced the French back 4 in very narrow, as they had to squeeze up and not allow spaces that those attacking players could penetrate. As a result, this left the long ball over to the fullbacks from these areas, both getting forward, supplying the width in these areas where they could influence the game. And those movements, again, those direct movements with that front 4, was still on show when the ball got wide, and it would be through subtle little movements. So the wide 10 in this position, let's say Sabitzer if it was on the left, would make this movement in here into the half space to drag this player in. Then you'd get the players attacking the box to then get on the end of crosses from these areas what the fullbacks would like to hit as early as possible and create goal scoring chances that way. It was a bit of a mixed bag with delivery from both fullbacks, but they both showed willingness in getting on the ball in these positions to put crosses in, and did very well, still disrupting France's shape, disrupting their defence and their midfield, and they couldn't really get near some of the movement from some of these players. They'd also suffer overloads from the deeper areas as well, by, if I just rearrange the shape, if let's say in this position Grealish would get on the ball, because of the off-the-ball passive nature of Griezmann and Mbappe, he could take the ball on further in this position, which then meant that one of the midfielders or one of the forward players would commit to this area, which created an angle not only into one of the 3-10s, but into the fullback as well. So just an attempt to overload that back line and that final part of the pitch, where there was already a serious amount of numbers to deal with. And it was just fantastic, overly energetic play in that attacking area, direct nature of it, fullbacks crossing into the box, and France did well to keep it out. It was some poor finishing and just that, it felt like they just missed that X factor in an attacking player. There was good attacking play, there was good attacking link up. They just lacked a bit of top level quality against a top level team. But They showed willingness, they showed enthusiasm, they showed a want to go and try and win the game, Austria. You can't fault them for that. So fair play to them. But France held out and fair play to them. But we're going to go over how they won the game. And one of France's main threats was in the transition, because of how much Austria had committed players forward. If they won the ball back in these deeper areas, which they would maybe through an N'Golo Kante in this position, who did so much work and was a fantastic player throughout, showed that going to Saudi isn't just a finishing stage of your career. You can still offer a bit of quality even being in that league. And winning the ball back, getting him or Rabiot on the ball, who was fantastic with his driving from deeper positions, to then find the runs of Mbappe, to maybe find Griezmann in a more advanced position, Dembele and Thuram as well, to hit Austria direct on the transition through these long balls into space and behind. As I'd say, Austria had committed men forward and they'd left themselves a bit vulnerable at the back, and that's one thing France did fantastically in transition. But in their regular shape, how did they do? So when France would build up, it would be favouring the right-hand side generally, as Koundé took up a more traditional right-back position with Saliba and Upamecano playing in the centre of defence, and N'Golo Kante showing for the ball a little bit deeper, and then Rabiot and Griezmann popping off in more of that sort of horizontal zone with the full-back, or a bit further up, closer to the front three. Griezmann doing the same, sort of those two interchange. Griezmann was pushed up further in this position. You'd see Dembele showing for it a little bit more. And Austria, again, rattling France with the way that they would attack them, would press high. So you'd get Sabitzer pressing the right back on the ball, you get the striker on Upamecano, who's playing on that side, then you get Baumgartner on Kante, Lima pushing up onto Saliba, Grealish pushing up here onto Griezmann, and get Seiveld pushing up here onto Rabiot, squeezing them into this area of the pitch, trying to win the ball back as quickly as possible, forcing them along where the centre-backs could win those duels. And because of the nature of Austria's press, it wasn't a direct pass that could unlock the runs of Mbappe and Thuram in these positions. So it meant that when the ball went long, the centre-backs could attack them. France did try and manoeuvre this by dropping Rabiot a little bit deeper, that as a result meant that France had clearer lines to play over to Theo Hernandez, who was pushed up a little bit further on the left-hand side. And Austria, again, with risk and reward, countered this by having Seiveld pushing over here onto this position on Theo Hernandez, which meant that Baumgartner pushed over into this position, marking Rabiot, and then Grealish pushed up here onto Kante, and as a result, it meant that Griezmann was temporarily unmarked until Verber jumped out of his position to press him here, leaving the left-back isolated one-on-one against Dembele, and it was a definite more one-on-one situation in the defence, with the remaining centre-back marking Thuram, and the right-back on the far side on Mbappe. So complete man-to-man high press. They forced him into this area of the pitch quite a lot, and France were getting no luck creating chances down that side. Mbappe wasn't getting on the ball in those early stages of the game, and they really, really struggled to play out. And then as the game went on, they started dropping Theo Hernandez a bit more on this position, where his link up with Mbappe would come to fruition a lot more in one of two ways. One, because of Theo Hernandez staying a lot more deeper, there was a lot more space in between Austria's winger and fullback because of the nature of how they pressed. So that meant if he could find this ball here into Rabiot, then Mbappe could sucker the player into this position, forcing him to press and then get the turn on him and running in behind to use his long stride and direct pace to get in behind and create chances that way, or through link up of Mbappe and Theo Hernandez. So let's say if Mbappe did drop off when Theo Hernandez had gotten the ball in this position, then as he received it, Theo Hernandez could use his great burst of acceleration to run in behind Mbappe and receive it back from him or from Thuram, and he could create in this position. As we know, Theo Hernandez is very comfortable taking the ball in centrally, and so that just helps to the overload of attack. And in his position on that left-hand side, it gave Mbappe more room to roam when they had sustained attacking periods, which is why he popped up on the right-hand side for the goal and was tacking that full-back on that side. And so there was a lot of fluidity that came when France did sustain attacks, which they didn't do a lot. They're a fast-paced attacking team that tried to take advantage of the Austrian shape, going one-on-one and getting the space that Mbappe and Thuram and Dembele could run into. But full credit to Austria, they really did rattle with that high press. It was brave, it was adventurous, and they almost succeeded. Again, just a little bit of quality in that final third, and the result could have been so much different. But provided an entertaining game, and Austria are by no means out of this tournament. I fancy them against Poland. I think they win that. And then on that last group stage game against the Netherlands, who could have already lost at that point to France, that's a massive, massive game. One I'm sure I will be covering on this channel. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Cheers for watching. In a bit, lads.